Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Women's Global Film Festival. I'm Sheila Jackson, one of the co founders. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Everybody's joining us from, I know we have people coming in from Kenya, from South Africa, from London, from France, from LA. I'm in Tennessee. So, welcome. Our mission is simple. It's to elevate women storytellers. We want to create meaningful global connections and celebrate films that move us, challenge us, and inspire us. Today, you're going to experience award-winning films from remarkable filmmakers, hear directly from some of the creators, and join conversations about where the industry is headed, from the global state of women in film to the exploding world of vertical storytelling, which I know you can't wait to hear all about. So, thank you for spending part of your day with us. And let's begin by celebrating our outstanding filmmakers. So, our first film was an award winner for Best Narrative Short from director Imole Ladipo, and it's called 8 Minutes and 38 Seconds.
Hi, I'm Deborah Hayter, one of the co-founders of the film festival, and we are excited to hear Imole. Hi,
Hi everyone. Hi. How's everyone doing?
I love the fact that you talked about creating from truth. I love that, creating from truth, and I think that's been your motive as a filmmaker. Can you kind of expound on that? Because I just think that's a beautiful way to start as a filmmaker.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much first of all for screening this. I really do appreciate everyone looking at it and talking about it because I think it deserves to be talked about. So the truth the truth to the story really comes from my grandma going through Alzheimer. So she really struggled during the last phase of her life, and we had to like put pieces of what she recognized everywhere around the house. And that's how we were able to help her and also help her as a family, right? So that she doesn't escape outside and think that she was kidnapped or think that she was lost or think she's in somebody else's house. So I thought about that for a very long time and I wanted to create this as a tribute to her. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate you as a female filmmaker. And where do you see yourself in this new diaspora of women filmmakers?
Um, What do I see myself? That's a very good question. I see myself as a filmmaker that I just want to tell good stories. I really just want to tell stories that all of us can relate to as a collective. I want us to be able to be true to the story that we do tell. I want people to be able to relate to one or two things from it. It may not be the entire fiction, but at least one or two of the of the story of the characters you'll be able to relate with it. That's where I'm coming from. It's more like I want us to have like a group therapy together in a way. So that's my model of storytelling. So even though this played as a thriller, I wanted to also buttress the fact that it is kind of a family drama in a way because it's almost like a family just taking care of someone. So I wanted it to be very relatable that way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us in terms of where you're going today? Do you have any new projects coming up, or would you just like to give us all a kind of an idea of what your next project is?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have three features that I just wrote, and I'm trying to work on getting fundings for them. But also, I have this other short film that I just created as well. It's all about women. My stories are always about women because I think women deserve to be on the center stage of anything, everything. So I'm writing for women. So the next story that I do have right now is also about women. So, and that's a short film as well. So hopefully next year you guys will be able to screen it and be able to see it as well. So I'm excited for it.
We're excited for you as well, and thank you so much for
Thank you
your
so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
participation.
All right. So thank you for that, Deborah. And we're going to move on to our next film, which is, I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly, Atarantada. And it's directed by Cristina Rubio Salcedo. And this is our winner for Best Documentary. So please join me in just congratulating Cristina Rubio Salcedo and the entire team behind Atarandada. And just to tell you a little bit about Cristina, she's a sociologist, a researcher, and a filmmaker who explores documentary storytelling through archival research and feminist perspectives. She's also served as a programmer, a curator, and juror at film festivals, championing the work of women directors. Unfortunately, Christina's unable to join us today, but we want to really recognize her and congratulate her on this well-deserved honor. Next, we're going to move into our official selection as the celebration continues. The next selection is Rock Island Prison, directed by Joy Shannon. So just stand by for a moment while we cue this up. All right, and our next film, well, congratulations again to Joy Shannon, our director for Rock Island. And our next film, our next official selection film is called Sexed, directed by Linda Ann Stander. Okay, we are back. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that, and congratulations once again to Lydia Stander for Sexed. One of the goals of the Women's Global Film Festival when, JJ, Deborah, and I began this is to connect women filmmakers across borders, cultures, and across industries. Today we're honored to bring together just an international group of women filmmakers from everywhere from what we have London, France, South Africa, South Africa, Los Angeles, and Kenya. And we want to be able to just get a little insight from everybody of what's going on in your neck of the woods, in your part of the world. So I'm going to bring these ladies on. Let me add in. First, we have Rebecca Tranter. Rebecca is an American-born producer, writer, director, and creative consultant, and she spent more than 30 years working across independent film and feature production while building her career in London. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me, Sheila.
Okay, I'm having some issue with my structure here. Okay, here we go. That's a little better. And it's showing up a little different online. I hope you all can see. Next to Madam Pamela Richardson. She's a producer, writer, director, and USC School of Cinematic Arts graduate whose company Brass Ring Enterprises produces film, television, documentaries, and media projects while supporting diverse storytelling. Welcome, Pamela.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the time. Next, we have Nemo Mathenge Waweru. And she's joining us from Kenya. She's an award-winning filmmaker, producer, educator, and founder of Africa's first high school dedicated entirely to the arts. Wow. Helping develop the next generation of African storytellers. Welcome, Nemo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Next is Pearl Manyango. She's an accomplished producer and line producer whose work spans more than 2 decades, and she is passionate about advocating for training, mentoring, and advancing women in the industry. Let's see. And we have one more person that has not joined us yet. I don't know if she's going to make it Candace. But let's get started. Let me work on this. Okay, we're not seeing you, Nemo. There you are. Going on and off screen for us, but let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to find out and check in with each of you about just what is happening right now for women filmmakers in your region that's excited you. You know, it's easy for us to talk about what's not happening, especially as women in film around the world. But what's most excited you? Like what's working and what's gaining momentum? Let's start with you, Pearl.
Good evening. It's evening in South Africa, and thank you for having me. Um, what's happening right now for women filmmakers in South Africa? I think what excites me most is that we are moving from just symbolic gestures to more structural change for women in film and television. And I know that, for years, support for women often meant, Women's Month event, a panel, a marketing campaign, whatever. But now we are starting to see deeper shifts in how the industry is actually organized. Across the sector, there are there are more women-focused development training programs. The National Video, the NVF, for example, has run female slates. Um, those are initiatives that deliberately put women in the director's chair and train producers around business and production management. So, that those are the things that are happening right now and excite me a lot in our region.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Rebecca? What's happening in the UK?
Yeah, what's happening in the UK is a good question. Actually, I think a lot of good things are coming about. We're seeing more and more, not only, well, we're seeing more and more producers, actually, female producers coming to the forefront. We're also seeing a lot of women led companies, as I think it's been more male, as we all know, everything has been real male dominated. And I'm feeling like, you know, the decision makers are starting to be female now. We're starting to see more women in that. But what I'm also excited about, really excited about, is seeing women behind the camera. We're seeing a lot of fantastic cinematographers that are coming out that are female, where that was totally male dominated, you know. And I think we're seeing a lot of that come out. We're seeing more directors led by female directors, led by female producers
Mm-hmm.
as well. So women starting to champion women, and I think we're seeing a little bit more of that. I'm seeing that within film festivals, you're seeing more female driven films, and sometimes even written by men for female, if that makes sense. And sometimes they get it right. They get some things really nice. So I think we're coming, and we're kind of meshing and trying to simpatico, and I think male filmmakers are starting to respect women in the role as well, and that's just
Okay.
from my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. This sounds like a maturity, like the maturing
Exactly.
process is happening.
you know, we're coming forward in time and saying back, you know, women are being starting to have to be recognized, you know, for intelligence and, you know, and savvy within the business aspect of it. It's great for the creative, but, you know, at the end of the day, we're dealing with a business here, and sometimes as a producer you have to keep that business mind, you
Mm-hmm.
know, having, you know, be financially aware of what your project is going to do, right, for your investors, uh, where to get that finance plan and put a solid finance plan together, because that's what the money people want to see, you know, and how, and my ideal of it, you get all the soft money you can, which is the free money as I call it, right, and what is your deficit, and then that's when you go for your hard equity. So
Okay, thank you for that, Rebecca. How about you, Pamela?
Well, I think one of the reasons why you're seeing more female filmmakers is really because the market has changed so much because of influencers and all these different platforms like TikTok and YouTube, Instagram. It's given anyone an opportunity, even young people, an opportunity to create content. And once you overcome the fear of wondering if you can do it, it just allows for more creativity, more options. And now, as a female director and producer and writer, if you can raise money, then you know it doesn't really matter what you are, especially if you're the producer too, because you can still hire more females or whoever you want to work for you. Money is sort of like the bottom line, as we all know. And there are a lot of different formats, streaming formats that are out there for you to get your project seen. It just depends on what level you want to be on. If you're, you know, waiting for a Netflix, or do you want to put it on Tubi or one of the other smaller platforms. But opportunity is there if you and like I said, you have more women and people in general having less fear about creating content because you have to do it for all these platforms that are just part of our business now. You don't have a choice. You have to advertise yourself and your projects on all these different platforms to drive the dollars to you, the marketing.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you for that. So, what's happening in Kenya, Nemo?
Um, Thank you. We are seeing a lot more women taking ownership in storytelling. Similar story as Rebecca's just shared, more women producers and directors, and they're totally taking ownership of the storytelling. For many years, I think as Africans, we've had the male dominated industry where the male tells the story, but we're finding women now moving towards telling the stories from a female perspective. So if it's love, if it's about family, if it's about community, we're seeing more women getting bolder behind the camera and wanting to tell their own story. So a lot more females coming up as directors, producers. We still need to have more writers, but a lot of them are taking ownership. A lot of them also running production companies. A lot of the companies that I've seen that are production are women owned, and they're being led by the women. So it's really been so good to see that in Kenya.
Absolutely. Um, when it comes to Pamela mentioned, will open the door for distribution. The question about distribution, because that's the thing: is how are you going to put it out there? How are you going to distribute it? And for those of us with film projects now, it's deciding. You know, I'm at a stage in my career where I'm done with gatekeepers. I want to be able to just do my thing and get it out there and put it out there in a way that's effective, that reaches, you know, the people I want to reach. And that's more open than it ever has been before. Um, but what does the landscape look like for women filmmakers in your part of the world? And that's part of the reason for, you know, this conversation and our organization in terms of the Women's Global Film Festival is to to figure out what this landscape looks like. Can you tell us if anybody has anything in particular? I'll just let you chime in as you want to. If there's anything in particular you want to share about what's happening with the distribution landscape in your part of the world.
Well, I'll chime in first because I recently finished a feature film, which was a suspense thriller. Not and it takes place mostly in a cabin in the surrounding woods, and it's called Feral Man. And what I find, just as a female director, I really do like action. I like suspense. That's what I watch. So people expect a certain thing from you. And so right now I'm dealing with distributors, but I find that regardless of who you are, it's still to a great extent who you know or who will champion you, because to get distribution, you still need a sales agent to sell outside of the country. You still, or unless you're fortunate enough to have like Netflix or someone who already has those relationships, or um, what was it, Prime or something like that. But you still need to, the whole industry, as you know, is built on a village. And you still need those aggregators, those sales agents, those whatever, sometimes to speak for you first in rooms that you can't get in on your own. I don't think that's changed. I think it is just based on my current experience. A lot of times, if you aren't coming through the door with someone they know, regardless of what you have. And as I said, nobody's really expecting me, even in how you guys were describing it. Women's stories, what are women's stories? Women to me are all stories. Women are in the woods, women are everywhere. It's not just about a relationship. So I think that as more women, and a lot do, like Ava DuVernay has done like action type things and stuff. But back to your original question, distribution is, unless you're taking an independent route where you want to go on, which you can do, and I would recommend it depending on what your situation is, on indie rights or someplace like that, where they look at your film and then they present it to the different platforms and you pay a percentage. But bottom line is these things are available to you. It's how you're going to bring in the dollars, regardless of how good your film is or not, is really the marketing. If you can get people to say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, um, you know, people tend to follow the leader. So
Yeah.
you can still make money regardless.
Pamela, I'll just interject. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I believe just if you have relationships out there, you have to use them. That is, it's a hard ride going solo. But if you can get somebody that's going to go, you know what, I like your work, or I like what you're doing, I like what you're trying to do, and get them to come on board, especially sales agents. As much as we'd like to go, you can go totally independent. I've seen that. And that's when you're finishing the film. So you've had everybody give you your money, right? And to make your film, to go out there and then show it at, try to get into festivals that have markets, and hopefully there'll be a distributor come in and see something and they want to take it from you, and then you can go that direction. But
Mm-hmm.
you need that sales agent. And I like working with sales agents from the onset. When I'm in development, I like to see if I can get to a sales agent that is reputable. That's another one. That is reputable and that understands the genre that I'm putting out, that I'm trying to put out, because they will help you. I kind of look at it like, here's development, here's the end game. I need to know what my end game is, so this way I can work my development to give it. So I'm kind of handing them what they want in their hand in a way, so they can go out and they know what they're doing and how to sell the project and the product, as I call it as well. So um, for right now, I don't think it's either. It's a, for me anyway, that it's such a gender thing, but it's more of a relationship thing, when it comes to distribution, and it's getting out there and letting them know who you are. And a lot of times they'll heard me, they haven't dealt with me, but they've heard my name, and as a producer. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm kind of with you on everything that you were saying, Pamela. I'm just kind of added on.
Yeah, I also want to add on to what Pam and Rebecca said, and I think I completely agree with what they said. And what I've observed now in South Africa is that, distribution is still one of the steepest parts of the journey, for women filmmakers. You see films doing very well on the festival circuit, winning awards, getting strong reviews, and then struggling to secure broadcast or streaming or theatrical deals. And it all has to do with getting a sales agent, like Rebecca is saying. It's the connections that you need to make when you go out there and put yourself out there. And I think that's still a struggle. The pipeline from festival success to audience and revenue is very fragile, and women are often under supported in that gap. And yes, we might say it's not gender related, but I think at some point, somehow it does become gender related. And part of the challenge is also access to the business side of the industry. And I think in South Africa, a lot of things that I've observed as a filmmaker and also as a person that sits on different boards of, different industry bodies, is that, people they come in as creatives, as writers, directors, but they don't know the business side of filmmaking. And so that becomes a struggle. So that means you don't have access to your distributors, your agents, your legal advisors. You have to start learning that in order for you to be able to move forward. But at the same time, locally, I see doors are opening, a bit, just a bit. They are opening. Local broadcasters and platform are, interested in diverse women-led stories, and they are willing to fund and champion, those projects. So it's moving. The needle's moving a little bit. It's a bit slower, but I think we're getting somewhere.
I'm going to agree with Pearl on the side of in Africa, in Kenya. She's talked about South Africa and Kenya. I think we're more behind when it comes to distribution. Um, Recently, we lost Showmax, Showmax was from South Africa. They were one of the biggest distributors for our content, especially on television, and now it's pushed back Kenyan market in television and also in the film industry a bit behind. And we keep seeing this happening over and over again. And Pearl's touched on something very important that lacks here, and is the wisdom, is the understanding and the skill of the business side of filmmaking. We still, a lot of filmmakers here still need to understand the business. How do you make money from this project? Unlike Rebecca and Pamela, who are in the part of the world sales agents are accessible, being in the States for many years, I've been around the conversation of having sales agents who are very, very rare in East Africa, in Kenya. I'm not sure if, Parl, you have that luxury of having sales agents. Here in
No.
Kenya, they're very rare, very, very rare. Yeah, we barely have any access. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult here. And it's,
I understand. And I think it's so important because of that you visit some of the bigger markets where you'll have access, that they're there at hand to go and talk to and build the relationships, even though they're in the States or Europe or whatever, but like the Cannes market, AFM, something like that, to, try to get there because they're all there,
we understand. That's what I said. And that's the point I'm making, that for us who do have the privilege and have been on those platforms, we are privileged to know and have relationships with those sales agents. But speaking on a broader market for the Kenyan filmmaker. A lot of these Kenyan filmmakers do not have the funds to leave the country, do not have the funds, they don't have that accessibility. And that's the point I'm making, that there are very, very few people who have that access. So we have a long way to go as a Kenyan country to get to that level. One of the strategies that I have seen some of the Kenyan filmmakers do that I think is brilliant is collaborate with people from the West. Where they collaborate with them as producers, and that way they're able to have access to those film festivals, hence getting into the streaming platforms or distribution platforms that are available. But we still like a 0.001% that are able to still have that access. So we have a long way to go. It's still a very steep uphill climb.
Yes, and that actually comes to one of my other questions, which is about how do you see the role of international collaboration helping women filmmakers break through? And I see that that's a huge thing. You know, that's one of the things that we seek to do is kind of to make those connections and introductions, to look for ways to build strategic partnerships, you know, on a global scale. Is any of that happening in your parts of the world? In any facets of the filmmaking that you see?
Well, I personally do know people who are interfacing producers basically with production companies in Ghana and in Tanzania. I know one of my friends who's in the finance aspect of this is supposedly building a studio with an actor. I'm not sure where they are with that, but I know people are trying. And then Tina Weisinger with the HAPA Awards, the Hollywood African Prestigious Awards. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but they're trying to do this collaboration, and I forgot where else it is, but I know it's Ghana, maybe it is Kenya, I'm not sure. But they're trying to bring that awards there to give people a little bit more visibility there because they've been successful in doing it here for several years. So I personally hadn't really thought that much about it, but if there's a way to do it, then obviously I'm open to it, to collaborate with people in other countries. I've been to Cannes, I've been to TIFF, which is coming up, and I'm debating about going to TIFF now. We didn't finish the film fast enough to try to submit it to the festival, but I'm thinking maybe to go there and just not and be sort of like take a moment, breathe, don't just jump on the first opportunity. Maybe I do need to show up, as Rebecca was saying. So, and there you would meet people who might want to collaborate, I would think, because that's one of the larger film festivals.
I think what's hard about collaborating, I mean, we tried it in France and from England, and it turned into having to. The problem is this whole cultural thing, and it's not a cultural thing. It's like, oh, we want to do something in France. Well, it has to be X amount in French. It has to be, you know, you have to tick all of these boxes that maybe your film only had maybe like 10% of what they wanted, but that's not enough. So then you're rewriting to wind up, you know, to be able to tick the boxes, and then you're starting to lose a lot of the creativity of what brought you there and the interest to begin with. I mean, we find that in a lot of the European, a lot of the European states, I guess you would say, or countries, and you know, Bulgaria, and it's kind of the same thing. You know, they'll offer some. You know, you can go in there. You're looking for the incentives. Let's be fair. That's why we'll collaborate with another country, a production company outside of your own region or whatever, is to access finance. You know, and but then it's that it is a kind of a barrier, you know, because of the creativity side of things, you know, of what they're looking for to get that to give the whatever percentage of financing. If you're shooting it there, or if you're partly shooting it, it's very, very complicated. That's for sure. But I don't know. That's just my take on it. And yeah,
And maybe there's a way to find some through lines there.
yeah,
Well, I was gonna say I do have a friend who shoots in Iceland and different places, but it's always an American film. It's just that he does he has the sales age. In fact, he just finished something and he shot in not only there. I know people have shot in Budapest. So maybe what has to happen, you still make the film, but you just offer that same film because they're doing it. They're shooting scenes that require that kind of a background. So I'm sure part of the exchange has to be that they're going to have it in the language of whatever country. But that's a plus anyway. That's what we all want, right? We all want our films to go international, where we have to give them a caption version.
I suppose you know. I always say he who pays makes the decisions.
very true.
Yeah. So I think at some point you have to reach some kind of compromise. But I think my problem is compromising your story to fit the money, that you are getting from, or incentives that you're getting from another country, and I think somehow that training that I was talking about, the business training, is knowing how to negotiate and how to, which battles to fight. Can I let go of this? Can we use this
Yeah.
language? Can we, so it's one of those things that you really have to think about, but you also need to be, I don't want to say trained, but you need to be aware of how to negotiate with the other countries that you have treaties with, and balance things. It doesn't always
Yeah,
happen like that, but yeah.
and I think you get I think you get that with the information and the education through the production company that you're working with. That you have that kind of. It isn't just okay, we're lending this, but that there is a relationship there because you're both going into something together. And that one hand is going to help one out with information what's on, and the other the same way, so that you're both going out for the same reasons, kind of thing. So I think the production companies, the people, not the companies, the people that are dealing with each other,
Yeah.
are in the same vein.
Yes, I want to
And
give
one thing that I think, sorry, Sheila, I just think one thing I think relevant to maybe South Africa and Kenya is mentorship from experienced producers, because then you learn from them, and when you walk into those deals, into those distribution conversations, you are walking in there with some kind of knowledge that you've learned from your mentor or the people that you've been, have been training you or showing you the ropes. So I think it's quite important in our part of the country, and maybe, Rebecca or Pamela, you can tell us how it happens in your side. But on our side, I just think we need that access to trusted agents and mentorship programs from experienced producers that we have in our countries.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of things. I'm sorry. And we'll add to this because I'm going to shift to just a couple of comments that are in our YouTube feed that I wanted to make sure we touched on before we wrap. But go ahead, Nemo.
I was going to say one of the things that I've also seen successful in collaborations is aligning in storytelling. Like, for instance, Kenya, we are known for wildlife stories. Can we get producers who are interested in wildlife? Where even if we're going to touch on, Rebecca's talked about cultural exchange, wildlife is wildlife. So even when we get there, what is the place that we are in sync when we're collaborating in telling the story? And that way, nobody has to compromise on the creativity in that. Because once we have a story and we're in sync with the story, creating that story into being what it is, I think would be a very easy way in which we can be able to collaborate, we can be able to attract money, and even the audience will be able to tap into what that audience is. Sorry, I just wanted to chime in with that when Pearl was talking about mentorship from Rebecca and Pamela.
Oh no, absolutely. I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of the comments on YouTube. Zanelli added that we need more international sales agents to attend, I guess, these events. She mentioned we do have two DFM and Fame Week, which makes a big difference in terms of kind of film market events in Africa that happen in, well, I guess, there is I know there's DFM in Durban, and
Yes,
then there's
DFM,
another one in Cape Town as well.
Fame Week, yeah.
It's a Fame Week event. Okay. Um, the other question I wanted to ask, and it came in from one of the viewers, is where do you see things for women in film in your region in 5 years? What do you think things are moving toward?
I can go first in this one. Our country needs a lot of training, and I see a lot of women getting skilled in film and television. When I say skilled, it's in the story writing, it's in the behind the camera, even as actors. Believe it or not, that still needs a skill, even for us as as a whole, as a people. And I'm seeing a lot of skill, being that I'm in the arts education scene, a lot of skill is the direction we're moving, and I can see that really strengthening the filmmaking in our industry. I'm definitely foreseeing a lot of money coming from this creative industry. We always are terming it as the creative economy here, because content creation has become a thing for us as Kenyans, and we're beginning to see a lot more of content being put even on these platforms, short form, long form. It's really exploding in that way. So I'm seeing this industry growing. We're seeing that the scale is going to be able to double, triple in the next 5 years, and a lot more content coming from our part of the world. More stories are really being written now. A lot of scripts seem to be circulating more and more. Every time I look up, there's a new story, there's a new feature being shot, even with the little money that we have here in our country. So I see our industry really, really growing in the skills and also in the storytelling as a country, and of course as a continent. Parl, you're going to allow me to say, as a continent, I think we're really growing. And one of the things that we want to attract people, even as I think one of the commenters said, is really have people look at Africa as a place where they can come and buy films. We need to, I see more film festivals here happening in our country, in our continent, where we have people coming here instead of us always going to the TIFFs and to the out there to the film festivals, but actually having people come here and see the kind of filmmaking that we are doing here and we have here. We also are seeing a lot more of our locations becoming a thing where people come to shoot their films. I'm not sure if you guys know Agent Shot just a few months ago in Kenya. They had one of the episodes based here. So we are growing as a location. I know Kenya used to be a big location with a lot of the films. Years ago, the Karen Blixen story. I mean, we've had tons of film. Constant Gardener, I think, was shot in South Africa. We're seeing that coming back more. We're having more location managers coming here to shoot films. We're having a lot of our crew being recruited from here. So we're really seeing this industry growing in the next 5 years.
So in the US, it's clearly going to continue to grow with women. Again, the fear has been taken away because we see other examples of women doing great things in film, women winning awards, women behind the camera as cinematographers and so forth. That's not going to change. What's going to happen is we're just going to keep expanding in the type of content. Like my next project is a vertical. I've written it. I'm happy with it. And I think more people are going to get into things like that because you can get five of your friends who have iPhones to shoot, you know, to make a vertical. So and also the other thing is that the population of women, at least in America, has grown. The population of men has been receding. So it's sort of like you don't have a choice. Eventually, you're going to have to
Inevitable.
product and who can find the money. And once you establish that, yes, I'm not going to sit up here and say, no, I don't get challenged. So, yeah, of course I get challenged. I'm a female and I'm Black. But, and so that's a reality, but it's something that I personally don't let stop me moving forward on anything. It's like, this is what you want to do. You got to figure out a way to do it. And back to the issue quickly of mentorship. You don't have to know everything. What you have to do is, like I said, have less fear because where you can't do something, that's what attorneys are for and agents are for. If you have one, you don't have, you can pay an attorney. You can say, put that as part of your budget because you probably are going to need them. So you don't have to know everything. And I could just say from my own experience, I made a lot of mistakes. I've lived in the valley of regret many times, but I learned from it and I was better for it. So fear is the first thing women have to conquer.
Yeah, I think that fear, especially of thinking we have to know everything, and that's the one thing from, I come to all of this as a writer, but once I got into producing, the one thing I loved about it was the freedom of not having to know how to do everything, but it's knowing how to build the team, knowing how to build the community around you, and everything. I try to build a community around me, and especially in those areas of, where I don't know something, is to make sure I build in those people who know more than I do. And it's okay to say you don't know, and reach out to folks. So I think this has been super helpful. I think the one thing I love that you said, Pamela, too, that I want to expand on, and one of the reasons, one of our motives behind this whole festival and everything that I know Deborah and JJ and I do as co-founders of this, is representing women's voices. We just don't like to say films, women's films, because like you said, what does that mean? Because women, we're experiencing everything. It's just through our voices, through our lens, and we don't always have films like that. And it does have a different little flavor to it when it's a woman's voice, writing a thriller or writing, across other genres, a horror, action adventure. And we love to see all of that. So I'm excited for your vertical. Verticals is our next conversation that's coming up. Does anybody have any last comments before we wrap up and bring on Pam Carbonero and JJ? Does anybody have any last comments they want to share?
No, just thank you for this platform. It's really needed and appreciated.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll ditto on
Pam.
that. And it's really great to hear other women from across the world. I sound like this because I'm originally from Texas. So, but I've been over 30 years and well over 30 years in England. So it's really good because I can see the different perspectives also. And, and we are a diverse community. I'm Hispanic. I was going to put my family name, Lozano, on there, but I I feel your pain, when it comes to trying to get out there and be recognized, not for what you're seeing, but for what's up in here, and your
Exactly.
knowledge and your intelligence. And that is something that I think that all women should come out and not be fearful of what they possess, you know. And I think going back with the 5 years um, um, question, I see, and I'm starting to see a lot of women in positions of, I don't want to say power, but in positions of being able to um, what am I trying to say? Sorry, I am a woman of a certain age. So,
Decision making.
Agency.
yes, decision making. Thank you very much. Positions. So, and that is
Yeah.
a real feat. We're no longer just secretaries, and have to carry around. I was in a meeting, and this gentleman I was with, he goes, "Are you taking notes?" And I said, "What, did you forget
No.
your notepad?"
I
No,
love it.
did you forget your notepad? Because I ain't bringing one. I can keep it in my head, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, sorry,
I
that's the
love
feisty in me. Sorry.
I love that, Rebecca, because I was going to say exactly the same thing to say. For me, in South Africa, for the next few years, my vision is that women in our industry move from simply being represented to actually owning and shaping the industry, running
Yes.
companies, controlling IP, and sitting in rooms where long-term decisions are made instead of just, being one of the few women that do this. Let's all do this.
That's
Thank you.
true. Very good.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you, Sheila, for always being so supportive with women in film and for creating this platform. It was such a pleasure to meet Pearl and Rebecca and Pamela, and also here, like I echo whoever said, I think it was Rebecca, you said meeting people from different parts of the world and hearing what is happening, because it's always an encouraging thing when you hear different perspectives, when you see different struggles, but somehow always similar struggles.
Yeah.
The example of a notepad is real. So thank you,
Exactly.
and
It's
thank you
very
so
real.
much, ladies. Yeah, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you all
you.
too. We're going to
Thank you.
bring up our next presenters and go through this process. Thank you, ladies, so much. That was such a great conversation. And I'm telling you, I just went through the secretary thing is still a role I have to make sure I have to work hard to shake. Because people like some men like to make assumptions about that. Right now, I'm bringing Jan Johnson Goldberger to the stage. So we're going to give Jan a moment to exit and re-enter. In the meantime, I love that conversation. Be sure to follow us. We're just getting active on social media, so please follow us right now. We're Women's Global Film Fest on Instagram, and we're going to be keeping this online. We're going to reboot this online, and we're going to, of course, have to edit out the films themselves because they're not premiering on YouTube. Um, but we want this information and these dialogues to be available for people to see on our YouTube channel. So please follow us. There you are, JJ. Let me bring you back up and add you to the stage.
Hi.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. It's
Technology,
all
I love
good. It's
it.
having
Yeah.
its way with us today, and it's
Yeah.
all good. So I'm going to leave the stage and I'll bring in Pam momentarily.
Okay. So I want to introduce myself as a co-founder and the executive director of Women's Global Film Festival. And like Sheila had said, it is so important for us to have this dialogue, for us to position ourselves not only as women filmmakers, but global women filmmakers, because the reality is that we live in a global world. So, and just to sort of pivot back to the prior conversation, when I think it was Pearl who talked about ownership, that women should, own production companies, own streaming companies, own IP. That is really going to be important, and I think that's what the future will hold. So, um, yeah, is Sheila, is Pam? Oh, there she is. Hey.
Hi.
Hi. So it was just a pleasure to meet Pam. A friend of mine had recommended Pam has a workshop, and my friend was in her workshop last year, and she said, "Oh, you should, you know, be a part of Pam's workshop." And so, a vertical workshop came up, and I thought, I've been hearing about verticals, verticals, verticals for years now, and this is something that is real. There are companies that will pay you to direct and write verticals. And I thought, let me just see what this format is like. So it was challenging in that it's very fast. The material is very specific. It's for a very specific audience. The editing, that's what. So eventually, because you're shooting on two cameras, and I had never shot two cams before, so mostly my experience has been with single cam. So eventually, my husband and I, we had to hand over the editing to somebody else, a very nice man who's also a director.
Shout out, Greg.
Yeah, so I was so happy that that happened. But it was a great learning experience, and I hope that more women and more women of color will take advantage of this genre because it's much more open, unlike television, which is very male and very white male. And Pam sort of talked about that a little bit. So I want to introduce Pam Carbonero, uh, writer, director,
Producer, first AD.
producer, first AD. She's just really wonderful. And I guess my first question, Pam, is how did you get started? Just generally, how did you get started in the industry?
Yeah. Well, first, so to kind of just finish off the introduction, what you were talking about, so people aren't like, what was she talking about? I'm also the founder and owner of the LA Directors Lab, and the LA Directors Lab was created for directors to simply practice their craft. And so to backtrack to when I first got started, I've been in our industry for over 15 years. I'm based out of Los Angeles, and I am a director. I went to school for it, and to get into the industry, everybody tells you, especially back then, if you wanted to get into production, start as a PA. And I booked my first feature, and I immediately found out what the first AD did. And I found that worked very well with my personality and my leadership abilities. And I thought, I think I would make a really, really great first AD. And I remember the first AD just kind of yelling at everybody. And I remember thinking in that moment, I don't like the way this feels. And when I become a first AD, I'm going to become that first AD that does not yell at people, that has fun on set, that makes everybody feel warm and welcome. And we've been doing that for 15 years now, and I love it. I'm very grateful for my job. It's opened up so many doors and opportunities. And it's made me an incredibly stronger director, writer, producer. It's now fed into everything, which then fed into starting the LA Directors Lab, which we're coming up on 3 years. And 3 years ago is when I first started working in vertical format.
Fantastic. Well, again, verticals are only growing exponentially. Somebody had said to me, somebody I respect, a director, he said, "Yeah, somebody had offered me a vertical a year ago," and I was like, "I don't shoot verticals." Now he's running around trying to get a vertical. So,
Yep.
yeah. So, my advice to all of the directors on this call: take Pam's vertical workshop and practice your craft because that is something, you can get paid to direct verticals and or write them. So, my next question is think, what do you see verticals playing in Hollywood? What role do you see verticals playing in Hollywood?
Well, verticals have already started to catch. So the first couple of years, and the reason that person probably said no is for anyone that doesn't know, when it's not just that we're shooting vertically because we watch everything on our phones vertically at this point. It's where the full name, is to really understand what it is vertical micro dramas. And the best and most succinct way of explaining it is it's basically soap operas on steroids. So it's very, it's overacting. It's the crazy drama. It's the storylines that are like so outrageous that you're like, this is so silly. But that's what that's what feeds the machine, if you will. And to explain a little bit more about, so there's these vertical platforms and their apps. Think of Netflix. So there's that the biggest one is called Real Short, and they're based out of China. So Real Short basically has their vertical platform that's kind of like Netflix. And so they shoot anywhere from 8 to 10 verticals a month. And they've been feeding their platform machine for well over not only just 3 years in the US, but they've been doing it for several years longer in China before they even brought it here. So they have this library, and the way that they shoot verticals is they're anywhere from, 80 to 100 pages, and they're shot like a feature. And so we'll shoot anywhere from 6 to 10 days. We shoot straight through. And the way that they put this on the platform is every 2 to 3 minutes is an episode, and every episode has some crazy cliffhangers. So you're on your phone and you watch 2 to 3 minutes and it's this crazy cliffhanger, and you're like, I want to keep watching. Right. Scrolling through, before you know, you watched a whole feature length of a vertical series that's just like this highly melodramatic, series.
Well, I think what's really important in terms of verticals is that it does give people who perhaps wouldn't get an opportunity, to be a showrunner, to direct a series of verticals or episodes, to write. It will give you an opportunity, and that's what's most important, I think, for me. And I guess that kind of leads me into my next question: is how do you think women of color can break into the vertical world? Because you kind of mentioned that when we first met, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so. Two things. Yes, this is kind of like they call it, episodic and show, but the truth is this is like a meld of TV episodic and also a feature. And what I mean by that is, even though there could be 60 episodes in this feature length TV series, there's only one writer. There's not necessarily a showrunner, but there are EPs from the platforms that are overseeing every single show. The writer's not normally on set with us, but the EP is there. So I guess in a sense they could be seen as the showrunner, but you do have the director there, and then obviously the producers, etc. So there's that piece of it. And this is the first time in a long time that I've been working in our industry that directors that are non-union and not necessarily with big credits are actually getting paid to direct, and consistently. So there's a friend of mine that I brought into our vertical workshop, where I remember when he booked his very first vertical, and that was back in 2023. And since then, I've seen him direct back to back to back to back as a professional working paid director. And he hasn't done anything except verticals. And, it's one of those things where it's like, sure, we can say no because we want to make sure we're going in the direction we want to go. But at the same time, when opportunities come knocking at your door, it may not come in the most perfectly wrapped package or what you
Exactly
thought it should look like. But you should probably say yes, because you never know. And our industry is just so based on connections that you don't know who you're going to meet and what's going to happen. And to go back to your other question that I realized I didn't really answer in terms of like, how is this taking shape in Hollywood is because of the kind of cheesy nature of vertical microdramas. Now it's catching the attention of Hollywood, right? So Fox Studios has already slated 200 verticals that they started last fall. Netflix and Disney have already started to create vertical versions of either their shows or starting to get it on their platforms, and figuring out how to do that. So everyone's starting to like get their hands in the pot, and everyone's now, the word elevating verticals is now starting to trickle along, where everybody wants to, right? So
right.
Issa Rae her company partnered with TikTok. They created a vertical, got over 250 million views, and that's just the start of the train. And so right now it's
Right.
Hollywood, and I don't think it's going to replace anything. The best way that I put it for folks to kind of wrap their head around it is, we understand that film is in its own place, television is its own place, soap operas are in its own place, and we know we separate them. Vertical is now just another place to shoot, create content, make things. And I think right now, especially for women of color, it's kind of doing a little bit of what Issa Rae did, exactly like that. Create our own shows, tell our own stories, write our own things, and then figure out who there's a lot of US companies now that are creating their own vertical platforms, and they are looking for stories. They are looking for creators. They are looking for the directors and the producers and the writers who have really great stories to tell, because they want to produce and make them. Because Real Short and the Chinese market are already taking the super melodramatic stories. And so now I feel like US based companies, especially ones based in Hollywood, are going to go for the more elevated vertical storytelling, which I think all of us want to go into. But it's the same idea of like, how do we make this bite-sized, interesting pieces that people just want to keep scrolling on like they would on TikTok?
Exactly. Well, it just seems like it's a really exciting time.
Yeah.
And I think that more and more women will, and hopefully, and it kind of goes back to what Pamela Richardson was saying. Over whatever fear you have, you can do this, guys.
Yeah.
And just from a person who has gone through Pam's workshop, I thought she was so fabulous because she was so supportive. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? And it was such a great experience for me. And I think that more and more women, however you do this, I hope that you will experiment and try this because it's great. And I guess finally, do you think verticals are here to stay? And if so, how is that going to impact the work women will be able to access?
Great question. I do think verticals are here to stay. I think we're in a very, very, very interesting place where the train has begun to move. And if you're interested in getting on this train, now is the time, because eventually it's going to go to one of those things where it's like the train now just took off. And if you missed it, it's going to be that gatekeepy feel of like, I didn't get in early enough. So now is the time. Now is the time to not judge it, right? Because it's kind of like a baby figuring out its legs and how to walk. And eventually the big players are going to come in, and then it's going to turn into this huge thing. And now it's going to be a lot harder to get into. So get in on the train now. Don't judge it. And, I think a lot of this also, this is really taking for women specifically, the stories so first of all, our majority of the audience for verticals are women. And telling women stories that us as women, we want to hear and see, especially like the romantasy. Gosh, it's so big, right? I mean,
Right.
the billionaire werewolf, blah, 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 right? And it's romance based, right? It's like the woman, and not every woman is like, I don't need to be saved, and I'm in that boat too.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, we just love the idea of romance and connection and love. And I think we can always, all of us, tell our version of what that story is in such an exciting way. And so a lot of really verticals kind of took off from book talk, which is, like the romantasy type of storytelling. And I think women can just tell that better than men.
Pam, do you think it is, I don't want to say easier because easy, there's no such thing as that.
Right.
But if you were just starting out, would you either write a vertical or would you try and direct a vertical? How would you try to navigate getting your foot in the door?
That's a great question. Those have two totally different avenues. So we'll take the writer version first. If you are really interested in writing for verticals, the companies are hiring writers to do this. And for them to hire writers at this point, you need to absolutely have a vertical completely written for them to read and see. So you can write a vertical on spec, obviously. If you have more than one, the bigger the better. And then from there, pitching ideas of what you can do. And then there's so many, like I said, the US based companies that are now sprouting out, they're hungry for content and for stories. And so it's really doing the research and finding who these people are, getting a meeting, even if you don't have representation, because it's still so like on the ground level, right? Like I said, right now is a train. Once it gets up there, then they're like, sorry,
Yeah.
don't take any work unless you have representation. So we're not there yet, thank God. So you could either apply to be an in-house writer, or you could try to get into these like companies, the smaller ones that are trying to launch right now that are looking for storytellers. And it's not just, I want to write a story that's a feature length and it can be shot vertically. You really should watch verticals. You have to do the research. Watch the verticals on these platforms. Understand what the format writing is. There's a book, I believe, out on Amazon about how to write verticals. Do the research, because if you just write a feature that you think can be shot within 60 episodes, that's not going to get you the job. Not what verticals are. Please take the time to research and understand what this format is specifically, so that when you go in, you look like you know what you're talking about and what you're writing about. And then for the director part of it, it's at a point right now, if you don't have any vertical, if you don't have a vertical reel, it's going to be very, very hard to get the job. And so go shoot stuff vertically. I know in the last panel they were talking about, everybody has a phone. Go shoot something and go edit it and make it really exciting and enticing, so that they can at least see, okay, you can tell really heightened, emotional storytelling vertically, because the framing is very specific. We shoot on cameras, as Jan mentioned. You want to keep the stakes high, and and go from there. And if you can get on set, try to, if you can be a PA, or if you can shadow the director, or if producers that are doing it, see if you can come visit on set to see what it's like. And I work so much on verticals as a first AD that I know how exactly the machine moves. And it's like you said, Jen, it moves very fast, which is, I gave you all that exact experience in the workshop that you can feel it. And, as a director, you have to be able to make decisions insanely fast. You can't be precious. The vertical frame shows a lot less than it would if it was horizontal. So you can be less precious with production design. So yeah.
Even composition, I'm not going to say you're limited in terms of composition, but you have to make specific choices.
Correct.
So
it's kind of the idea of understanding, how do people look at things on their phone?
Exactly.
So if my face took up the frame like this, you're going to be like, that's really close, because it's on your phone. So it's like understanding little things like that are a little bit different than regular shooting.
Well, let me ask you, would you please share your information in terms of how the people on this call can get in contact with you and participate in your fantastic workshop? Maybe putting it in the chat, I guess, would be helpful.
Let me. Oh, it looks like I have to. I'll say it first, because it looks like I have to do a little bit.
Okay.
So you can find the LA Directors Lab on Instagram. Me and the LA Directors Lab would be the easiest on Instagram. And that's just LA Directors Lab with an S. And the LA Directors Lab does all kinds of workshops. We're not just vertical. Actually, our vertical workshop that we just did a couple weeks ago was the first vertical one that we did. We do everything horizontal normally. But we do all kinds of workshops. I don't know when I'm going to do the next vertical, but we do all kinds of stuff. So we've done rom-coms, medical procedurals, stunt workshop. We have a horror workshop coming up next. And so this is really for directors to practice the craft of all kinds of shooting, so that you can also have all kinds of stuff on your reel to show how versatile you can be. And then you can find me personally at Latina Director on Instagram.
But this has just been a pleasure. I don't see any questions in the chat. If anybody has any questions, guys, this is the time to ask because I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, Sheila, do you want to come? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Well, I guess, Sheila, do you want to come back in? This has really been fantastic, and I thank you so much, Pam, for
Thank you so much, Jan.
yeah, this is really, and we're going to have a screening actually next Saturday. So now
Yes.
we're yeah, maybe you can talk about that too. Talk about the screening if people want to come.
Yeah, so with every single workshop, all directors have a very fast turnaround because a lot of things die in post, unfortunately. But we keep it really fast so you don't sit in perfectionism mode. And so then we screen everything, and everybody can watch everybody's work from the workshop. And so our screening is going to be this a week from today, actually. So next Saturday in East Hollywood. It's open to the public. Anybody can come and watch. We do Q&As with everybody, and you can see the difference. You know, some directors pick the same stories, so you can see how different directors approached the stories, which is really exciting. And tickets are only $5. So if you go on the LA Directors Lab page, I'll be posting the links and follow the stories. And then on the LA Directors Lab Instagram page, if you go to the link in bio, you can sign up for our newsletter to get information on upcoming workshops.
Okay. There she is.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you for joining us. That is such an exciting time. This is such an exciting new layer,
Yes.
It kind of expands opportunities for us. So thanks for joining us. And I'm going to look for that book too.
Yes, look for it. Thank you both so much for having me on. I truly enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I'm also going to add in our other co-founder, Deborah Lathan Hayter. Let me bring you to the stage, Deborah, so we can close out. This has been a lot of great conversation, I'll say. Just a lot of great conversation. It's always leaves me feeling so good, when I start to have an opportunity to hear what's going on with other women, especially in other parts of the world, who are, working in these areas and doing, on the same path.
Sheila, I think that it's really important that we continue to have these kind of conversations because I found the panel that you held as so really important and so interesting to hear what other women, I did not know that women in Africa, that just, sales agents don't come to the continent. So I'm thinking, why? So let's keep having these kinds of conversations because I think that they're really important. We live in one world. We live in a very diverse world, but it's one world. And I want to continue these kinds of conversations with women in Africa, women in Eastern Europe, women in Western Europe, women in Asia, and of course, women in the United States. It's so important. This is the 21st century, and again, this is one world.
Yeah. And I am so excited that we did bring together an incredible group of women, and they've reminded us that they've always been powerful storytellers, visionaries, change makers. So it's been a real privilege to celebrate the extraordinary work of these women. They've already been accomplishing so many great things, but now they're inspiring each other, and we're dreaming bigger into the future. So thank you so much for everyone who participated, and we look forward to hearing more stories, connecting with. This is such a beautiful universal connection, and I'd like to thank my co-partner Sheila. You did a fabulous job,
She did.
and I just, we just have such a great synergy because we recognize what global community looks like.
Exactly.
Exactly. So as I said earlier, we invite you to stay connected. We're going to be hosting more of these dialogues. We invite you to follow us on Instagram. We'll be reopening our call for submissions later in the year for our next for our next festival. But throughout the year, we want to keep the conversation going. So we'll be having other events. So follow us on Eventbrite, stay connected with us on Instagram. And until next time, keep telling stories that matter.
Okay. Bye, ladies. Bye.
Bye.